Hello, this is your professor Mike Kent in ITSC 1309 Integrated Software Applications 1. I'm creating this short video here to show you the fundamentals of Microsoft Excel. If you understand this, you're going to be doing great with Excel. Everything else you learn after this in Excel is either how do I do this easier or how do I make it look pretty. So without anything more, let's jump into recording my screen and I'm going to show you. Oh yeah, come on, Texas. So the first thing I want to remind you is we want to keep our work organized. So I've got this folder where I'm keeping all my classwork for this course, and I'm going to create a new folder now that we're on to Excel. And I've got the spreadsheet right here, which is my example I'm going to be working from, and I'm going to drag and drop it into Excel. And let me open it up. And of course it's going to open it on the other screen. If I pull this where we can see it, I'm going to be doing a mythical hypothetical budget. Now I realize these numbers are not accurate, but you get the idea. So we've got a student budget here. We've got rent, groceries, eating out, clothes, electric bill, etc., etc. We got to have internet. We got to pay for our streaming services. You got to pay for that car and automobile insurance as well. Miscellaneous, charity, got to pay San Jack some money, and we got to send that minimum payment to the college or to our MasterCard. Now, if you've ever tried to do a budget, you've wanted to add all these things up, you've gotten out your calculator and you added them up. So, I can simulate it here. I could go to calculator and open it up. And of course you brought up the calculator app on your phone and you started typing in stuff. 800 plus 400 plus 20, etc., etc. And you get all the way down to the end and you get a number and you go, did I get that right? And you add it all up again and then you get a different number. So you don't know if you got it right the first time or the second time. So you have to do it a third time. Well, the idea with Excel is we can automate this math. And the way we do that is by writing a formula. So let's talk about what types of information we have in spreadsheets. So we have text, that's just words you type in. We cannot add, subtract, multiply, or divide words. We can't do that. The second thing we have in spreadsheet is values. All these numbers right here can be added up. Now they don't look very pretty right now because I haven't formatted them to look pretty, but we want to get the total right here. Right here. Let me zoom in some so we can see this a little easier. Let's see if I can get what I want on the screen. Oh, got to zoom out just a little bit. Now I was just using control and my mouse wheel to zoom in and out, although you can use the buttons down here as well. So I want to get a total of all this stuff. So the way you do a formula to tell Excel to add things up is you start with an equal sign. Equal sign. And then you tell it the contents of what cells you want to add up. Now the wrong way to do this would be 800 plus 400 plus 20, etc., because if these numbers up here ever change, then this is never going to change because I hard-coded the numbers. So what I want to do is tell it the cells. So my rent is in cell B4. And you see I wrote that as a formula and it put a blue box around it. Plus my groceries are in cell B5. And it made that red. Plus B6 plus B7 plus B8. You're getting the idea. I've got to run all the way through this because I am going to show you an easier way to do this in a little bit. Plus B9 plus B10 plus B11 plus B12. I'm almost there. 13, 14, 15, 16. Two more. 17 plus B18. So that's a lot of typing. But what I'm telling Excel to do right here is go get the number that is in cell B4. Column B, Oops, we don't want that. We want it to be B4. So this is column B, row 4. So this is B4. Do you see it right here? It's marked it right here in my status bar up here. This is B5, B6, B7. Now if I come back down to my formula right here, it's showing me the answer. It's adding all these up and putting the answer where I wrote the formula. Now, as soon as if you look up here on the formula bar, you can see my formula, but it's not color coded. Until you click in the formula bar up here, you won't see the color coding. The other way you can get to your formula is to double click right here on the formula that you wrote. Now, I just realized my phone is not muted, and of course I'll get a phone call now if I don't mute the phone. There we go. It's muted. So what I've done here is tell it to add all these up, and when I press enter, it shows me the answer. So my expenses, my total expenses, here we'll click on this. We'll do a little bit of formatting. We'll say bold. And right here we'll say bold. Is $2,490. Now, the problem is I'm only making $2,000 a month. So if I come here and write one more formula, equal, I'm going to go income, which is B22, minus expenses. Oh, that's bad. I'm losing $490 a month. So we don't want that. Now, the really cool thing about Excel is you can play what if. So if I click, drag, and select all this and say copy, then I can click in the next column, right click and say paste. Now, what if I rent a room from somebody instead of an apartment? So that's $500 a month. And oops, let's try $500 a month. Now, right here, I typed a non-value, so the formula is giving me an error. Let's correct that. Let's put that back to 400 for groceries. So now you see I've cut my expenses down, my total expenses to $21.90, but you know, that's too much money, right? We're going to buy a lot less groceries. And how are we going to do that? Well, let's see if I can insert a shape. Let's insert a smart art right here. No, not a smart art. Let's do a shape. Let's insert a call out box, and I will just say 5 for $1. That's right. 5 for $1. Ramen noodles. That's what we're going to base our groceries on. All right, I don't need that call out. Eating out. Okay, well, we're going to compensate a little bit more. We're going to go get 4 hamburgers a month. Electric bill is lower because we're renting a room. We don't gasoline for our car. Well, we got to drive a little bit more, and gasoline's just more expensive. We just have to pay our share of the cable TV. We got to have our cell phone. That always goes up. We got to have internet. We're just paying our share of the internet. And we're going to keep our streaming services. We're going to keep our car insurance. Miscellaneous, going to pay some charity to my favorite charity. Got to pay Sanjack $100. And we got to make that minimum payment. Now that we're not as deep in the hole, we're going to make a payment of $100 a month to our credit card. And now you can see that my expenses are not changing when I type this stuff in. So let's take a look here at this formula again. If I take this formula right here, and if I copy it, and then I come here and I do a paste, I'm just going to do Control V for paste. See, it's getting the other expense. Now if I copy this right here and I paste it, so now we're making $230 a month. We can put a little bit money in savings for a rainy day. Now, if I look at this formula right here, if I double click on it, you notice that when I copied the formula from column B to column C, it changed all the B's to C's. Okay? If you look at this one right here, this was originally B22, that's my income, minus my expenses, B20. When I copied that to here, it automatically changed it to column C. So when you copy formulas around, here the formula is talking about everything above it. So when I copied it to here, it's doing the same thing. Now, this is an awful lot of typing and very prone to errors, because what if I did this? What if I accidentally put C8 in there twice instead of C8, C9? So now my expenses are showing lower, and if you look at the formula, I'm not adding gas in at all because I made a common, very simple mistake. So you got to be careful with spreadsheets that you get your formulas correct. Okay, now there's an easier way to do this than typing all this in. This is such a common thing that we have a function. I can go equal sum, open parenthesis, and then click, drag, select all these cells right here. Now, if I hit close parenthesis, what is it saying? It's saying sum up everything starting from C4 all the way down to C19. Hey, that is a lot easier than typing all of this. So that's an example of how do I do things easier. A very common thing is to sum up a row or a column of cells. In fact, it is such a common thing that if you look up here on my title bar, you see where it says AutoSum. If I'm at the bottom of a column of numbers and I hit AutoSum, it writes the formula for me. Equal sum, because remember, all formulas start with an equal sign. In this case, we're using a function, and the function is called sum, which means sum up everything in a range of cells. Here's the beginning of my range, colon, here's the end of my range. So that's B4 through B19. Now, once again, if I was to copy this and paste it, look what it did. It made it C4 to C19. So one of the wonderful things about Excel is you can write the formula once and then copy it across. Same thing here. Now, I don't need to use sum right here. Some students will go sum, and they'll put a sum around this. You'll still get the right answer, but if you're just adding or subtracting two things, don't use sum. Just say this thing minus that thing. B22 minus B20. And then here, of course, we'd want C22 minus C20. Now, what if I want to do some other months? Like we're looking forward to November. Okay, I can grab this formula, I can grab all this stuff right here, copy it, you can however you want to copy, okay? I'll just say copy, and I'll click on my destinations, and I will say paste. So I'll just say, just paste, and right now you can see my expenses are 0 because I haven't typed anything in, have I? So, what if I get a really expensive place to live? It's $2,000 a month rent. Oh, that's going to shoot my budget. Groceries, 400. Groceries are going up because of inflation, 500. Eating out, we're going to go crazy. We're going to eat out almost as much as we cook. Clothes, 200. Electric bill, 100. Gasoline for my car, $150. Cable TV, well, who has cable anymore? Because we do streaming services, but streaming's going to go up to 40. So as I'm typing in these values, you can see it's updating my total and updating my surplus and my loss. So I'm in trouble down here. I'm $1,240 in the hole. Internet, that's going to cost me $60. Insurance, car payment. I'm going to get a cheaper car. I'm going to get a used car for $250 a month. Insurance is going to be $75 because it's a cheaper car. Miscellaneous. While I'm in college, I'm going to cut out charity. I got to pay the college my tuition, and then I'm going to go back to the minimum on my MasterCard. So I'm definitely living beyond my means right now. But if I get a better job, then I'm okay. So I can play what if. Like right here in October, say I moved in, I just renting a room, and my income went up to $2,200. So now I'm clearing $330 a month. Now this is kind of crazy right here. Let's go back to 750, and groceries is probably going to be 500. But now you can see my expenses and say I'm making $2,500 a month. So now I'm losing a little bit of money each month. And I could keep doing this for December and, whatever. I could keep putting in all these expenses for these months. And the main thing is, as I copy the formulas across, now that this is in column D, look what it did. Sum D4 to D19. Column E, it's E4 to E19. In column F, it's F4 to F19. And of course, these numbers might be different. Maybe we only spend $350 on groceries and we cut back on eating out to almost nothing. And because, we work at the Burgermeister and we can get free hamburgers when we work there. Clothes, we're gonna cut that back. So you can see we can go through all these different things. I'm going to move closer to where I work. So I'm not going to spend as much money on gas. I'm going to cut down my cell phone service from unlimited data. I'm going to get a slower speed internet. I'm going to get rid of one of my streaming services or two of my streaming services, etc., etc. So we can play around with these numbers and we go, oh yeah, and I'm making $2,500 a month now because they gave me a raise because of inflation. So you can play with these numbers. Any values you change, it does automatic recalculation as soon as you change the number. So if I say my gasoline bill is going up to $200 in December because I'm going to be doing some traveling, boom, as soon as I hit enter, that number right there, the total changes. So that is, in a nutshell, what spreadsheets are all about. And you just have to watch your formulas very carefully for errors. Now, how can I make sure I got this formula correct? Well, if I click, drag, select all my values, if you look down here on the title bar, it says all those items average to $157.50. The count is 16 and the sum is 2520. And if we look right here, 2520. So that's another way we can check our work. If I click, drag, select all these right here, my sum is 1870, and you can see I've got 1870. So there are ways to check your work, because once you get to bigger numbers, it's very hard to catch errors. But like, instead of saying, like I first showed you, instead of saying B4 plus B5 plus B6, for God's sakes, don't do that. Use the sum function. In fact, if I hadn't written any of these formulas at all yet, none of them. So I need to get my total right here. I can come up and use my auto sum button. It fills in the range for me. All I got to do is press enter. Now, there's no magic button right here for surplus and loss. For surplus and loss, I'm going to squeeze that up a little bit. Let me go a little bit smaller. For surplus and loss, I'm going to go equal income, which is where? B22 minus B20. And that will show you another thing you can do. Anytime you're typing something in, I can come here and just type it in. B22 minus B20. Or where I'm just getting ready to type it in, I could say, I can click on it and see how I put B22 in there minus expenses, B20. So now that I've got that in there, now I can copy it across. In fact, to make it even easier to copy things, I don't know if you can see it, but right down there in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little square. If I put my mouse over that, you see how my pointer changes to a black plus sign? If I click and drag, that says copy what's in the first cell to all the others. So I could do that right here as well. I could say copy and drag it over to here. So now you see here the formula is equal sum B4 to B19. I'm going to hit escape to get out of edit mode. If I double click on this cell, it's C4 to C19, D4 to D19, etc., etc. Now, like I said, That's making it easier. Using the sum function makes it easier to total stuff up in Excel. The other thing we want to learn how to do is make stuff look pretty. So like for right here, my budget, you'll see, for instance, I merged these into one big cell and I changed the font size to size 20 and I made it bold. I could make it italic if I wanted. I can grab these right here and say center, bold. Okay, that looks better. I can take all these numbers right here, click, drag, select all that, and I'm going to come up here to accounting style, and then I'm going to say decrease decimal places. So I can do it like that. Now that gets a little busy with the leading dollar sign, so the other thing I can do is come here and hit my drop down and choose currency style. And what currency style does is put the dollar signs right up against it. And then you also see that it puts a comma every 3 digits to make it more readable. So that's an example of some formatting I could do. I could change my colors. I could click, drag, select here, grab all these and make them, we can make them a nice pleasing blue. Okay. Here's my income. This is money coming in. What do you say we make those green? Okay. And let's make them stand out. Let's make it bold. So I'm starting to do some formatting here. Another thing you can do is you can use your borders. I'm going to put a bottom border right there. See how that makes it look a little better? I want to put a bottom border right here to separate my expenses from the total. And then maybe right down here on the bottom we could pick yet another, we could highlight it in yellow. So we can do all this kind of formatting. In fact, let me grab this right here, unmerge it. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to say merge and center like that. So you see that's the other thing we can do. We can make our spreadsheet look pretty. But the main thing is writing these formulas as easy as possible. And then once you've written them once, you can almost always copy them straight across or down or whatever. Now, there are exceptions to that. We'll get into that in a later chapter. We're going to look at absolute versus relative cell references. But that's for a later chapter. And we're going to get into a chapter where we do all kinds of formatting to make things just look really pretty. But like I said, this is the fundamentals. What are we doing? We're entering text. We're entering values. And in this case, I formatted the values as currency style. Now, the book will have you do this kind of thing. Hit the drop down here, pick currency style, say how many decimal places you want. How do you want the negative numbers to show up? Here, let's put them in parentheses and make them red. Okay, so now you see these are coming out negative. So we'll learn all these formatting things as we go. But like I said, the most important thing is writing these formulas. We've got text, values, formulas. Here's a formula that's just subtracting one thing from another thing. Here's a formula that has a function, has the sum function, which means sum up a range of cells. And that's really it. That's all I wanted to show you. But this is the fundamentals of Microsoft Excel. And this is what we're going to be building on while we're in the Excel section. So that is going to do it. In fact, let me save my work so I don't lose it. In fact, let me save it as, I don't want to save it as start file. I'll save it as finish. And exit, and I'm going to stop this video. All right, folks, take care. Thanks a lot.